Hello, winners, and welcome to Two for the Win with your hosts, Nick and Will. So, this is part 4 of our 4-part series about entrepreneurship. Part 1, 3 weeks ago, was talking about some ideas and inspiration to move off of just having an idea and acting upon it. Part 2 was a 6-step framework on how to get your first 100 customers. Part 3 from last week was how to leverage those 100 customers you now have to help guide you to grow and scale your business. What is part 4, you may be wondering? Well, we will be happy to tell you. You have your 100 customers. You use those customers to now scale and grow your business. You're getting more revenue coming in. What is the most precious asset you have? Your time. Well, people and your time. Your time is the most precious asset. So today in part 4, and this will conclude this 4-set series, is hiring for growth. When is it time to build your team? There you go. Excited? I know we are to talk about it, but before we do, please be sure to share, subscribe, and follow Two for the Win on your favorite platform. And again, shout out to today's sponsor, nickmenard.com and the 1% Push, as well as his Amazon best-selling book, Mindset is My Degree. Happy Monday, Nick.
Happy Monday, Will. Winners.
I am so excited to talk about this, have experience doing this, lessons learned, money made, money lost, and willing to share it all. But any high-level thoughts from you on this topic before we jump in?
I mean, it's true. Time is the number one commodity, but it number one important, like assets. But people, I mean, if you choose the people right at the right timing, that's gold. That's gold. Now, you cannot do it there too early, and you cannot do it too late. So we're gonna share our own experience and some nuggets, and we can go from there.
Yeah, it's like Goldilocks and the 3 bears. You got to get the porridge. It could be too hot, too cold, or just right. So we're going to talk about how to get it just right. But before we get into the details, let's go into our favorite segment,
Quotes and Quips.
Ooh, stereo surround sound. All right, this first one from an author we both really like it. And if you're on YouTube, you can see the book right over the shoulder of my co-host. And it is from Stephen Covey, the author of The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And this quote is, "The key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities." Thought on that one?
You get me started again. Every time we talk about meeting, you get me started. So yes, your schedule should be a reflection of what is the number one, your priorities. So do not schedule things to have things in your calendar just because it look good when you open your Outlook and you have 75 colors back to back all day. That's not useful. What needs to be done first, this is your priority. You have meeting to, with your vendors, with your manufacturer, whatever you're doing, marketing, things like that. But what is the most important? To make money. What is the most important step in order to get to where you are, to where you want to be next? And it's always scaling by step. And so I love these quotes because I know way too many people who just love to see a lot in their calendar, but there is nothing to do with what is important, what is the end goal. So please do not be one of those people. And that's my recommendation.
Love it. Yeah, my mind when I heard the quote, and obviously I knew this quote from reading the book, but it's really, I love your take on it. My take was, don't let life dictate to you. Grab the bull by the horns and you dictate to life. Like, so if something is a priority, you need to have it on your calendar and remain congruent to it. And again, I tend to be transparent on this podcast. I'm not afraid to admit when I've stubbed my toe. We were just talking about it offline earlier tonight. Like, there were some things I was working on, and now some time has elapsed and I haven't made any progress because, candidly, I allowed myself to be distracted. So I'm willing to be on that ladder of accountability. I'm willing to look in the mirror and be like, guess I screwed up the last several weeks, but you know what? Today is a new day, and I get started back on track with that. But but at the end of the day, if you are really building a business now, in addition to maybe your employed work, you have to be diligent with your time management because you don't want to get burned out. And you have to make sure, as Stephen Covey is famous as saying, put first things first. So your highest priorities, have them on the calendar, dedicate time. Lower level activities or priorities, delegate, pause, or delete from your list.
I love it. And I can add something in here as well. Like before, when I got to do some training and classes for public speaking, it was more about how to be successful getting hired. All right. So there are some steps to do. And I will always remember one of my teacher during that class told me, Nick, how does your calendar looks like? And so I shared with him and he said, where is your accountability time today? And I said, what do you mean by accountability time? He said, look at my calendar. And he just shared his screen. And he had every day 55 minutes blocked somewhere in his calendar, 6 days a week. And he said, those 55 minutes, nothing, unless, of course, personal reason, like very bad, but nothing comes in front of this.
Mm-hmm.
I need 55 minutes in my calendar every day. And I have a to-do list. So he literally had which everybody should have, a to-do list to do by prioritization. And he changes as he goes, but he has that priority list always in front of him. And those 55 minutes, he can only focus on his priority list, starting by the number one. He scratch the number one, go to number two. At the end of the day, he adds what needs to be done next. And so it's always rolling. Mm-hmm. And he does that. He said, if my number one take the 55 minutes, it takes the 55 minutes. But if I do every day 55 minutes, I will always finish my prioritization weekly. But it's a non-negotiable. 55 minutes a day, 6 days a week. I need to work on my prioritization list one by one. Sometimes I can go, okay, this is done after one email, responding to the email, client email for the, like whatever it is. Sometimes it goes fast and I'm at number 5 and 6 after 30 minutes. But sometimes it takes me a whole day to be in step number one. But I will use those 55 minutes nonstop, no phone, nothing, just doing those things. And I love it. Did I take ownership on this right now, doing it every day? No. But I will. I just wait a couple of things that happen to be able to start this. But it is gold, I think. It's amazing how accountable he is for himself. Mm-hmm. And so that's something I will encourage you, everyone, to do something. Maybe it's 30 minutes for you. You can do. Maybe it's 5 days a week, whatever it is. But if you have something like that, you will always work on your prioritization, regardless what they are, and also work on a task list. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that's missing. I hear people, I'm so busy. What do you need to do? And then they don't know what to explain it. Why? Because it's not in writing. So put the thing you need in writing. I'm guilty as well. I don't do for everything, but majority of things are in writing, like my follow-ups, my feedback, we talk about it the other weeks, like referrals and stuff like that. But it's not per se all the time in writing. And if it is, I will never miss a step. So that was something I want to share.
I love that. That's a great idea, actually, because I was doing the math in my head when you were saying it. Even if you did, the 55 minutes, 6 days a week, I mean, that's 300 hours where you're spending on high priority activities during the calendar year. Imagine the exponential growth you will have, as well as accomplishing things.
And he's a $500,000 a year commission in public speaking, this person. Yeah. And he started 8 years ago from zero with never had any experience speaking. After 8 years, he reached last year his first $500,000 commission only for that business. $500,000 in 12 months of speaking engagement after 8 years. And the first 2-3 years didn't look good. But he said, I start that and I stick with it. Now, even being successful, I keep doing it. Yeah. So that's a testament of, success.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. That is a great one. All right. Next is our quip. This came from Justin Welsh, solopreneur and growth advisor. Don't know who he is, but Justin, if you're listening, love to have you on the show. His quip is, delegation is like flossing. Everyone knows they should do it, but most people don't. Thoughts on that one?
I pretty much said it already now. Like everybody know what needs to be done, but so little amount of people are doing, me included. So I put myself in there. when you think about doing something, put it down on paper and do it, because you will forget. If you're a busy person like we are, like having like a job, multi businesses, families, and things like that, vacation, it needs to be somewhere. Otherwise, you forget. Actually, today I had to send something very urgent to my lawyer for a speeding ticket, and it was my deadline. And literally, just by scrolling on my mailbox to look for something else, I realized, that's today the deadline. I need to get my driver testing that I needed to do, my class, driver class. And so why did I didn't put that on paper? So everybody knows that we should have a list for tasks, since I talked about that, but very little amount of people are doing. I know, because I work with people every day, and when I ask what's next, they look in different places to tell me what is the next more important things. It should be on a task or Outlook or whatever you use. I don't care what you use. It can be a paper. I don't care, but it needs to be clear and consistent. So yes, delegation here you mentioned, but it's very important that you do the steps, and that you do it and not think about it beginning of the day and the end of the day, and in between you don't really know.
Yeah. And in my experience, some of the people that struggle with delegating, there's a few reasons. One is they just like being in control, right? They have a high degree of trust in what they can do, or a high degree of safety in what they can do, and they don't want to delegate because they're afraid something may not work as well. The other thing is they don't really understand how to prioritize and what things that they should own versus what things they could delegate. And then I think another opportunity is sometimes I think people feel like if they're delegating, they're being lazy. And I think actually what you're trying to do is not only maximize your productivity, but those are growth opportunities for people in many cases. They can work on tasks, even if it's a mundane task that they've done quite a bit. They're getting a feeling of importance from contributing to what you're doing. So, to your point, I when I have mentorship discussions with people, more and more I see opportunities that people aren't delegating enough, and what's happening is they're getting burned out, and it's having productive issues. So, delegate, and hence today's topic. You've now built a business. You've got over 100 customers. You're scaling, growing to the point where time to hire. So what are we going to talk about first? About some signals that it could be time to hire an employee or a contractor, just somebody to help build your business. You're feeling consistent burnout or working consistently 60 to 80-hour work weeks. You're dropping the ball on customers or growth opportunities. You're turning away work or delaying launches on some things that you've been playing. Boy, that one hits home. And making decisions based on capacity, not vision. So, there's that old adage like, the biggest fear in life is not that we will achieve what we set out to achieve. It's that we set the bar too low. And so don't shrink your dreams because you're worried about expansion. But any other signals you think would be helpful for people to pay attention to that may be a trigger for, hey, it could be time to hire somebody?
No, I think you mentioned like majority of those that I experienced myself. So burnout, you feel like you never done. Like you start, you finish at 10, 11, 12, and you say, oh my God, I still have so much to do. And then tomorrow you start and you feel like you never done. I think it's a good time. And I'm sure people listening are like, well, you need to have the funds to do it. Well, yes, but it's also time, because you need time to coach people. Because at first you don't have an infrastructure, like a structure that will allow you someone to coach you, because then you have someone else on payroll. But also, you can always have 1099 individual contributor ICs, independent contractor ICs. So you can easily, not easily, but you can build something for, definitely if you are in sales, if you sell something, you can, it's commission based. And I highly suggest people to hire people, if they do that in commission based, to look at people who already own businesses or people who already been through it. Because if you do that with someone who has a employee mentality, it's not going to work, because usually the kind of work that needs to be done in the beginning of everything, it's a lot of training, a lot of learning, a lot of hours with very little commission, because you start learning, and so people quit before even starting. But if people already been through it as a manager, as a business owner, they will know that those are the steps. And so they will look at a long-term vision, mid-term vision, instead of looking at a short-term vision. So when I talk for associates in my business, when I talk to them, if they said, well, I will see how it goes in beginning and go from there, I don't even want to continue the discussion, because it's never going to work, because I know it's going to take a lot of time for them to train. And if they don't have the patience to do so, it's not going to work. Also, for for independent contractor, it's you get paid a lot less in the beginning that you will pay at the end, because you need to learn. So it's a process. So it's important, but it may be the solution for you, because you don't invest anything other than your time, which is also money, but you don't invest actual money. And then when you get there, you have more sale, and then you just increase your your revenue. Then you can start having like employees coming on your payroll and things like that. But the big mistake I see people do, they try to save so much money that they destroy their health, their relationship, anything, because they want to do everything themselves, and it's just not possible. And so it's very important to understand that.
Yeah. And when I first started, I think I shared this story in a previous episode, but when I first launched my mortgage brokerage in Las Vegas, I had a contracted employee 1099 to do the call center. And then I had loan officers who were aligned 1099. So it didn't require me to put any money out of my pocket. To your point, the money was really more of the time invested on that, and it worked. But then it got to a point where I did hire a salaried employee. And it's funny, the difference is, in my mindset, this is just me. I'm not saying this is the right way or wrong way to think about it. But when I wasn't getting productivity out of the 1099 employees, it was like an irritant, but I was like, it's not costing me anything. When I saw my salaried employee and she was taking 90-minute lunches instead of 60, I'm like,
Yeah, it's your bottom line.
All right. So they're like a different level of accountability on that one. But yeah, to Nick's earlier point, you don't need a ton of money to hire somebody hourly or salary off the bat. Share your vision, share your dream. What's in it for them? What skills can they develop? And you may be able to work out an agreement like that. Certainly, there's famous examples when you get to the point where you're really starting getting big, where you can get stock options in case you ever go public. But that's like way down the road. But there's a lot of ways to go about it.
And usually you can start also low, like in sense of salary. Virtual assistant are very, very popular right now, and you hire someone from the Philippines which is totally legal, but it's a different kind of salary that you provide. And if you find the right one, they will work around the clock because of their situation. So that's something like look at that first and see how you can get help for the more basic administrational, like maybe basic posting on social media, or like creating Canva posting or things like that can be done by anyone. And then you see the quality of the person, then you can increase that and go from there. But you have option. You don't even think about, oh my God, I need to have an insurance, like I need to have all the benefits and stuff. Yes, eventually, but it's not something that you should be thinking first. Go step by step, and you will see you will go further with that. But the big mistake is to wait too long, and the mistake for people with money who try to create more businesses, they go too fast. So they don't know. I'm a true believer. You need to go through the steps yourself and see how everything in your business are working. You need to understand every step yourself in order to coach the people, and where the challenges will be, instead of just, hey, I have X amount of money on my bank account. I will hire someone for this, someone for this, someone for this, but you never did it yourself for that business. So you don't know really the challenges that they may have. And so you cannot train them properly. You cannot do anything. And then that's burning money that you may have, but that's still burning money. So it's not smart. So it goes both ways, but you cannot go, crazy in any direction.
Right. Yeah. And there's another source. Like, let's say you got a lot of technical expertise, but you're not exactly the most flamboyant marketer. There's freelance.com or other relative sites where you can hire people for contract work to write your copy and stuff. Yeah, all that stuff. So lots of options on there. And I think the key element is, when you're thinking about timing, one of the things for me that runs through my mind often when I'm considering things like this is ROI. So, there's lower level tasks that are very administrative in nature, things that could be automated, things that they're menial, but they're important to the standard daily day-to-day to running the business, but they're not the highest and best use of your time. So those would be a trigger. Like, okay, let's say that sort of stuff is taking up 2 hours a day, right, to do that. And you think about the cost of what it would be to have somebody or to invest in software that could handle those tasks for you. What would you be able to do with those 10 hours a week? Now, the key is you have to repurpose those 10 hours a week. If you're just taking the 10 hours a week, unless you are suffering burnout. So when you're thinking about the ROI, unless you're suffering burnout, then that 10 hours a week, maybe you just need it so that you stay productive. But otherwise, reprioritize it on high leverage activities. What are you doing that is worth way more than what you're, paying to have it done for you on your behalf? A general rule of thumb is usually around 5x. You want to get a 5x ROI. Some people use a higher number. Some it might be a little bit lower. But again, you want to have wiggle room because to your point, you're going to have to train somebody on it and things like that. So that's going to take some time. But the time you invest early should hopefully save you way more time and to be more repurposed to higher productivity tasks down the road.
Yep. Agree.
All right. Then the other thing, thinking about the risk of having employees, the budget, and the confidence questions. So here's some guidelines. These are not hard and fast rules, but things that can help maybe ease your decision-making on it. Can your revenue from your business comfortably cover 3 to 6 months of salary? Because if you can, that is a good indicator you may be able to invest in your business either, again, through automation software, through hiring employees, whatever, to free up more time for you to do more higher productive work. Is hiring solving a clear bottleneck or just wishful thinking? So is it an ego flex where, I just want to say I have an employee and maybe I'll get additional revenue? Or is there an actual bottleneck in your business that by hiring somebody and eliminating that bottleneck will free up additional revenue opportunities for your business? And then the other thing to consider, hiring does not equal scaling. So unless you pair it with process and delegation, you heard my co-host and best friend Nick talk about process on multiple episodes. So true. You want to have the systems in place, the framework in place, so as you hire, it can actually scale. Now, your first hire, that may be what the key thing is. With one of the key things with that first hire is to build those scalable processes and systems. But your first hire does not mean you're scaling. Scaling means when you're having multiple people and they're able to replicate that and run the business efficiently and effectively. But any thoughts from you on what can help, risk factors to take into account or,
Yes, I think it's important. What is the most important first? Because it's easy to say that we have, we have a need everywhere. But it's important to understand what would be the number one priority that may increase my revenue first. And if it is something like marketing, for example, well, is it better to hire someone to take care of your marketing, or is it better to use a consulting company for a one-time flat fee to actually take care of it? Because if you hire a marketing company, you won't have to train them. Yes, it's going to be a fee that may be higher than a salary, but it's a one-time fee. Or is it better to hire someone with a lot of experience in your niche? Then it's maybe worth it. But always analyze the why. If it's in sales, 1099. Having a 1099 person would probably be the best fit. If you need administration person well, then a VA may be your best option because it's going to be a lot cheaper than anything else. Now, if you need someone to start training other people, is it the first person to hire? Probably not. Okay, so analyze what it is and maybe start with half time. Have someone part time or things like that. But yeah, don't put yourself in the red. What I love about what you said is about the 3 to 6 months in advance. Everybody have different, different risk tolerance. All right. I do believe that 6 months of salary, having that in the bank, I think it's needed. And I think consistency in revenue is also needed. Sometimes you hear people, oh my God, my business will go crazy. I just started my first month. I did X. I need someone. Well, I would strongly suggest to at least have 3 months of consistent revenue. So put yourself like a certain level. So for my travel agency, I know that I have a number in my mind. I want to reach 6 months in a row to feel like, okay, now that's what I can expect moving forward. And when I said, when I tell you in confidence, like the 3-4 months in a row that I have, well, it's great. But I'm like, I need 2-3 more months in order for me to feel like it's going to be consistently that number right now. And then I can scale from there. But a lot of people tend to feel like, oh man, they have 1 or 2 great months. That's going to be the new normal. It's probably, I hope for you, but it's probably not if you think that way. So maybe it's seasonal. Maybe it's a reel who works very well that people just start clicking and buying. But you don't know the satisfaction of the customer where we discuss. So you need to have a lot of indication. And that's why I say 6 months, because 6 months means that there is consistency there. All right. 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, it may be just a one-hit wonder. And I think that those are all the things to take into consideration before hiring someone.
No, I totally agree. And I think about, again, you don't want to have paralysis by analysis, but to your point, you don't want to jump before there's a net either, and some of those things. So, be prudent, run the numbers, again, assess your own tolerance for risk. But again, whether you use a 5X or some other number, have a high degree of confidence. This is going to free up time. It's going to increase revenue opportunities by increasing revenue, productivity, efficiency, whatever it is. But it could be happening a little bit sooner than you think. Or to your point, if you have the roller coaster with your revenue month after month, you may want to wait until it stabilizes a little bit more. But don't undersell the value of your time, and especially when it comes to lower level work or menial work, that always seek for ways to delegate, contract out, hire out, or automate. You will not believe how much it frees up your time. I'll use a personal example. My spouse tends to be extremely frugal. She doesn't like to spend money unless it's on animals. Then that's out the window. But outside of that, she doesn't spend a lot, right? And I'm busy. I have my full-time leadership role. We have our podcast, travel business, other things that are working on the side. She's busy doing that stuff. And I was like, we got to get a housekeeper in here. Like, it just, I'm not expecting her to do it. I'm not going to do it outside of maybe a few little minor chores. But, and finally she did it. And, and it's like, you have to put a value on your time. And mindshare is a value I think sometimes people overlook. And it's like, hey, if I can put in 50 to 60 hours across all the various things I'm doing per week, and then I get rid of 4 to 5 hours of chores, I'm going to be more productive with those 60 hours than if I worked 65, including 5 hours of chores. So,
I agree.
So anyway, you can apply it to your personal life too. That's what I was trying to say with that. Any last thoughts you want to share with our winners before we wrap up?
No, sometimes you can jump, but be specific about your needs and have a plan of action. And have a plan in case it works. Have a plan in case it doesn't work. So if it works, you go for number 2, number 3. And if it doesn't work, scale back down. But always have a vision and always know the steps, because otherwise bad decision or wrong decision will be made, because it's going to be a urgent decision. Usually those are never good.
Yeah, I agree. All right, winners. So this wraps up the 4th in our 4-set series around entrepreneurship. Again, to recap quickly, 4 weeks ago, we talked about how to take that idea and find the inspiration to take action. We followed that up with 6 steps to how to get your first 100 customers. We then followed that up with now that you got your 100 customers, how do you leverage your client base to grow and scale your business? And then now that you're growing and scaling your business, when is the right time, and some indicators of when you should think about hiring employees. We hope you've enjoyed this series as well as this episode, of course. Again, please share your comments and feedback. Certainly appreciate you. And please, again, make sure you subscribe, share, and follow 2 for the Win on your favorite platform. And thanks again to nickmenard.com and the 1% Push, as well as his Amazon best-selling book, Mindset is My Degree. That'll do it for this week, winners. We'll see you next Monday, Mindset.
Bye, winners.